This is When the Darkness Walks In, written by Gerson Meso. Chapter 8. Unseen Forces, Unspoken Truths. Months into the job, I was entrusted with a new responsibility, training fresh recruits for the night shift. It was routine by then, a cycle of guiding newcomers through the protocols, ensuring they knew the ins and outs of our security procedures. One particular night, I was assigned a trainee, a young man eager but still adjusting to the eerie stillness that came with working the graveyard shift. After walking him through the basics, I sent him off to rove the building, a standard part of our operations. I took my post at the reception desk, watching as he hesitated at the assignment. "The basement creeps me out," he admitted, shifting on his feet. "I'll start from the top and work my way down instead." I nodded. Some places had a way of unsettling even the most skeptical among us. The basement was one of them. Moments later, I heard the distant chime of the elevator as it carried him up. I turned my attention back to my duties, expecting him to take his time, familiarizing himself with each floor. But then, barely minutes after he left, the elevator dinged again. The doors slid open, and there he was, his face pale, his breath ragged. His eyes darted around the lobby as if he'd seen something he couldn't explain, and in that instant, I knew. Something had terrified him, something real. I leaned forward, studying his face, the way his hands trembled, the way his chest rose and fell like he'd just outrun something unseen. Whatever had happened up there, it had shaken him to his core. "What did you see?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. His eyes darted toward the elevator as if expecting it to come alive again. He swallowed hard. I don't know," he stammered. "I was heading up like normal, but then—" He hesitated, rubbing his arms as if trying to chase away an invisible chill. The elevator stopped. The 10th floor. But I didn't press for the 10th floor. A familiar unease settled in my gut. "The doors opened," he continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. But no one was there, nothing, just this silence. He shook his head, and then right in front of me I heard it, loud, like it was right there in the elevator. A sound. He shuddered, like a dog in pain, but there was no dog, no animal, nothing. My skin prickled. "What did you do?" I asked. "I panicked," he admitted, his voice shaking, "slammed the closed door button and hit ground floor as fast as I could. I just wanted out. But the elevator didn't listen." He swallowed again, his eyes wide, haunted. "It took me all the way up instead. All the way to the highest floor." I exhaled slowly. "When the doors opened," he continued, barely above a whisper now, "I was too scared to move. I didn't see anything, but I felt something, like something was there, watching, waiting." His breath hitched. "Then the doors just shut, and the elevator started coming down on its own. No stops, just straight down." He looked at me then, his fear raw, his hands gripping the counter like he needed to anchor himself to something real. "That thing," he whispered, "whatever it was, it didn't want me going up there." A heavy silence settled between us. I'd worked enough nights in that building to know one thing for certain. Some places remember. I was told that some places hold things, and sometimes, when you least expect it, they let you know. I studied him carefully, searching for any sign of exaggeration, any hint that fear had twisted his perception, but his terror was raw, undeniable, and yet I couldn't just take his word for it. I had to see for myself. "Let's go," I said, my voice firm, more for my own confidence than his. His eyes widened. "Back up there?" I nodded. "We'll sweep the whole floor. If there's something or someone, we'll find it." Reluctantly, he followed me back into the elevator. The air inside felt heavier now, as if the space itself had absorbed his fear. I pressed the button for the 10th floor, watching as the numbers flickered upward. When the doors slid open, I stepped forward first. Nothing. The long, dimly lit hallway stretched before us, silent and empty. The air was still, unnaturally so, as if the entire floor had been frozen in time. I walked slowly, scanning each corner, each shadowed doorway. No signs of disturbance, no stray animals, no logical explanation for what he had heard. I turned to him. "See anything?" He shook his head, but his body remained tense, his eyes darting like something unseen might emerge at any second. The unsettling part? We were the only ones in the building. No other employees, no late-night maintenance workers, just us. Had he really heard what he claimed? Or had fear distorted his senses? I wanted to believe it was just nerves, just the mind playing tricks. But deep down, something told me otherwise. I exhaled, pushing aside the unease. "You're taking reception for the rest of the shift," I told him. "I'll handle the patrols." He didn't argue. The rest of the night passed without incident. No strange noises, no unexplained figures lurking in the dark. But that didn't change the fact that something had happened. Something real enough to send a grown man back down in terror. And as I walked those silent hallways alone, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't as alone as we thought. A few days later, my first trainee was reassigned to another building, and I was given a new recruit to train. He was sharp, eager to learn, and didn't seem like the type to spook easily. We covered the basics, security procedures, patrol routes, emergency protocols. Everything was routine. After going through the training, I gave him his first solo task. Take the elevator, do a full internal patrol, and report back when you're done, I instructed. He nodded and disappeared into the elevator, the doors sliding shut with a metallic thud. I remained at my post in the lobby, keeping an eye on the entrance. Minutes passed. Then the elevator chimed, and he stepped out. But something about him had changed. His confident stride was gone, replaced by hesitant, measured steps. His brows were drawn together, his eyes scanning the room like he was looking for something. Someone. I straightened. Everything okay? He hesitated, then asked, "Did a woman pass through the lobby while I was upstairs?" I frowned. No one's been in or out. He let out a slow breath, his expression still puzzled. I heard someone. A woman. She was singing. Singing? He nodded. A lullaby. A chill brushed against the back of my neck. "Where?" I asked. "7th floor," he said. His voice was lower now, as if saying it too loud would summon whatever he'd heard. It was coming from the cubicle area, clear as day. I followed the sound, but when I got there, no one was there. I studied him. His hands were clenched, a thin layer of sweat forming on his brow. This wasn't some prank. He had heard something. "No one at all." I pressed. He shook his head. But I smelled something. Perfume, strong, like someone had just been there. That uneasy feeling curled deeper in my gut. I had been here long enough to hear the stories about this building, stories I never paid much attention to. Until now. "Show me," I said. He hesitated, glancing toward the elevator like it might betray him again. But after a moment, he gave a small nod. We rode up in silence. When the doors slid open on the 7th floor, I stepped out first. The space was exactly as I remembered it. Rows of empty cubicles, the faint buzz of fluorescent lights overhead. Nothing unusual, nothing out of place. "Where did you hear it?" I asked. He led me deeper into the floor, pointing to a cluster of desks. "Right here." I inhaled, searching for any lingering trace of the perfume he mentioned. Nothing, just the familiar stale air of an empty office. We stood there for a long moment, the silence stretching between us. Finally, I exhaled and patted his shoulder. "Looks like it's quiet now." He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't convinced. Neither was I. The rest of the shift passed without incident, but something about that night lingered. It happened on a night like any other, until it wasn't. I was alone, making my usual rounds when I decided to take a short break in one of the waiting rooms on the 3rd floor. The air was still, the silence wrapping around me like a heavy blanket. I sank into the couch, rubbing my temples, exhaustion settling into my bones. And then, without warning, it hit me. A crushing, invisible weight pressed down on my chest, like unseen hands pinning me in place. My breath hitched. The room, which had felt ordinary just seconds ago, suddenly seemed suffocating, the walls closing in. Fear, raw and primal, clawed its way into my mind. I tried to move. My body resisted. This wasn't fatigue. This wasn't stress. This was something else. A presence. I had heard the stories from my trainees, the strange sounds, the eerie encounters, the feeling of being watched. I had listened, nodded, acknowledged their fears, but in the back of my mind, I had always held on to doubt. Until now, this was real. I forced my lips to move, but my voice came out as a strangled whisper. "Jesus!" I gasped, straining against the unseen force. The pressure intensified as if whatever it was didn't want me to speak. I clenched my fists, summoning every ounce of strength I had left. "In the name of Jesus, leave!" The moment the words left my lips, a shift occurred. The oppressive weight lessened. My lungs expanded, taking in air freely again. With a final push, I bolted upright, my body trembling but free. I stumbled toward the elevator lobby, still whispering prayers under my breath. My limbs felt weak, but a new strength was rising within me. By the time the elevator arrived, the heavy presence had lifted completely. Peace. The contrast was startling. One moment, an invisible battle for my very breath. The next, a calm so profound it felt supernatural in itself. As I stepped into the elevator and descended to the lobby, I carried with me more than just the memory of what had happened. I carried the certainty of what I had long suspected. Spiritual warfare was real. I had felt it, battled it, overcome it in Jesus' name. And I knew, without a doubt, that as children of God, we are not meant to shrink in fear, but to stand firm in the face of darkness. The experience had shaken me, but it did not break me. If anything, it solidified my purpose. I wasn't going to quit, because now I understood, and I was ready. That wasn't the only unexplainable phenomenon I encountered while working in that building. After my own chilling experience, I remained vigilant, knowing that not everything could be rationalized. Then came the night when the control room radioed in, dispatching me to the 6th floor. "We're getting repeated calls from a cubicle up there," the dispatcher's voice crackled over the radio. "An employee is asking for urgent assistance, but the calls keep dropping. Check it out." I responded immediately, taking the elevator up, my hand resting near my flashlight as I stepped into the dimly lit corridor. The entire floor was silent, eerily so. I made my way to the cubicle in question, expecting to find someone in distress. But when I arrived, the chair sat empty, the computer dark. I scanned the area, moving through the floor methodically, checking every possible hiding spot. No one was there. After sweeping the entire level, I radioed back. "Control, the floor is clear. No sign of the caller." A few minutes later, just as I was settling back at the lobby, my radio buzzed again. "Report back to the 6th floor. Glass break sensor alarm just went off on one of the windows." My pulse quickened. I had just been up there. No one was on that floor. I took the elevator back up, my senses heightened. Stepping out, I moved cautiously toward the windows, scanning for signs of forced entry. But there was nothing. No broken glass, no movement, no explanation. The air in the room felt heavy, charged, as if something unseen was watching. I stood there for a moment, gripping my flashlight, listening for anything, any whisper, any shift in the atmosphere, but the silence was absolute. I knew what this meant. Another encounter with the unexplainable. Another reminder that some things in this world operate beyond the reach of logic. Spiritual warfare is a constant and undeniable reality, manifesting in various forms throughout our lives. Recognizing the enemy's strategies and discerning the subtle ways these forces operate is the first step toward victory. However, awareness alone is not enough. We must be equipped with the right spiritual tools and unwavering faith to counter these attacks effectively. Strengthening our connection to divine protection, standing firm in truth, and engaging in persistent prayer are essential in overcoming darkness. In the end, the battle is not just about defense, but also about reclaiming our authority and walking boldly in the light. True victory comes when we no longer live in fear, but in the confidence that we are never fighting alone. Thank you for listening to Chapter 8 of When the Darkness Walks In by Gerson Meso. Subscribe and turn on notifications to hear more when new content is posted.